Hi, my name is Shira Rubinoff. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Herasoft. I'm here with today's video series, joined by Anthem Blanchard, CEO of Herasoft, Jonathan Nguyen, Vice President, Field CISO, Strategic Services of Fortinet. Thank you both for joining me here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Shira.
Thank you. So let's talk digital transformation, certainly a topic that most organizations are dealing with today. So to dive down to it, digital transformation is a strategy that businesses take to enable business innovation, which is predicated on the incorporation of digital technologies into operational processes, product solutions, and customer interactions. The adoption of digital transformation in businesses has increased exponentially, and organizations are quickly adapting their workflows and processes. We talk about cybersecurity as an enabler of digital transformation, specifically omni-channel engagement, creating new ways for customers, employees, and partners to interact with the brand, passwordless authentication to improve security, and user experiences leading to better outcomes. So, Jonathan, what are your thoughts around this movement?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I have this dream job where I get to speak with CIOs and their teams on how to get cybersecurity right. And, we're coming out of the pandemic now, but over the last 15 months or so, a couple of themes really have come to the fore, which is that the ones that were able to really succeed and indeed grow during this pandemic, this huge disruption that we all faced, were the ones that were able to create new, more secure and seamless ways for their stakeholders, their customers, employees, and partners, really to interact with their brands, right? And when they were doing that, they were able to generate growth during a time of economic disruption. And so along the way, what we're seeing is that the ability for any customer to interact with your organization at a time of their choosing, on a device of their choosing, even on an app of their choosing, is going to be foundational to the success of any digital enterprise moving forward. In fact, I don't think there's any traditional brick and mortar company out there. I think in the last 15 months, we've all become digital natives, or we want to be digital natives, and we all have millennial expectations. And so what it means for security now is not only do we have to manage risk, right, and compliance and governance and all that good stuff, but increasingly the security teams are being asked, how are you enabling the business? How are you helping to grow revenue, productivity, accelerate time to market, agility, innovation, all that other stuff? And at the same time, how are you improving the customer experience, right? That digital end user experience. And so one of the things we're seeing now is CISOs and their teams are thinking about security, not so much from a tactical day-to-day process, that's important, but also from an architectural viewpoint. How do I enable security, things like zero trust? How do I manage ransomware? But how do I, at the same time, remove friction from these new business processes that you just so eloquently spoke about, right? How do I remove things like the pain points, the speed bumps, and how that customer is engaged, that omni-channel engagement model? And things like passwordless authentication go a long way towards removing, say, the speed bump. That is the authentication process when you begin engaging with any organization, right? And if you do that, you really allow that end user to engage with your brand at a time of their choosing, on a medium of their choosing, and it creates these progressively more compelling experiences, which leads to better outcomes. So that, in a nutshell, that's a lot of what I've seen over the last 15 months.
I'll certainly see that across industry. And Anthem, certainly as a CEO of a company that's at the cusp of dealing with ransomware and the security models, what do you say about this from your perspective?
Well, definitely from an architectural systemic standpoint is really what we see, because that's effectively our platform, and really having distributed systems, which we really use public protocols, the kind of software that the Bitcoin inventors invented, and effectively layer these public protocols together to create a tapestry that creates 100% uptime, ransomware proof, and perfect data integrity for our clients, whether it's a government or a private organization. And really, we're just a trust layer, whether it's through a partner, a channel, we're there just to be invisible. We're kind of like the plumbers and the electricians. We're the utility guys and gals in the back, and just, real innovation and digitization should be seamless and invisible, I think, at its best. And we don't even know it's there. It just becomes intuitive to us. And that's really the kind of future I think we're all demanding now. It's in demand, and if you can't provide those services in demand, then it's going to be a real challenge, I think, from a commercial standpoint for that kind of organization.
Well, Jonathan, you seem to be nodding a lot. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, you hit it as spot on. It's really about this notion of security as being seamless in the background, right? Providing a better experience, but also this notion of cross-platform and cross-indeed domain visibility and control. I think one of the things that digital transformation creates is a very distributed, highly disaggregated and a hybrid operating environment, right? And yet across this very disparate operating environment with different technologies and platforms, there's this idea that the user expects a uniform level of performance and security and privacy. And so, yeah, those are big challenges right now.
Yes, very true. I love when we all speak the same language, and we're certainly all positioned in the security world to head that way. So software-defined enterprise and need for platform domain, visibility and control, networking, security and computing are all now highly adaptive and scalable, but not designed to work together. We're still falling on security fundamentals such as cyber hygiene due to complexity. Jonathan, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are around that.
And that's the fundamental reason I came to Fortinet, was to get security right by moving from point defense products and platforms to a really an integrated security fabric that spans LAN, WAN, data center, and cloud edges, right? This notion that as we become a software-defined enterprise and we're using less and less of our own infrastructure and platforms, but using other platforms, others' infrastructure, you need to have some common platform or denominator that spans across the legacy hybrid environment, but also into the largest public clouds in the world. And what we're doing at Fortinet is that we're leveraging AI and digital experience monitoring to elevate the NOC and SOC integration, right? So you can monitor what's happening in network and security. The great things about networking moving forward is going to be SD-WAN. And SD-WAN is by definition, highly adaptive, highly scalable, right? Highly flexible. Security with AI, likewise, has the same qualities. And cloud by definition is inherently elastic and scalable. But yet, if the three platforms aren't working together, all you have are optimized bottlenecks at the network, at the security, and the cloud. So we need to ensure across the board, as you begin scaling on any of those, that the constituent elements all are in sync. And that's how you deliver a more uniform visibility and control. And so I think for digital transformation to work, you've got to have a common element that spans those platforms. And I think we're seeing that now. We're seeing it's about outcomes, it's about experiences, right? And no longer can we think about operating separate silos. The practical reality is that SLAs, when I got started in the industry, were in the hours, right? At 3, 4, 5 nines of availability. It went from hours to minutes. And now we have 5G ecosystems where the SLA is going to look like sub 5 milliseconds, right? And so security's got to perform at that level of speed, and it has to be integrated. So yeah, that's where we're headed next, I think. And it's going to be integrated and automated, and it's going to be backed by AI.
Well, certainly, you're definitely speaking the language that needs to be spoken. And Anthem, we've certainly had conversations around that. We talk about digital transformation, driven cloud adoption, and exactly as Jonathan said, it requires networking, security, and compute to be synchronized to take advantage of their adaptive, scalable features. And as you said, all three need to be integrated as one solution, not operated in separate silos. And Anthem, I'd love to hear your thoughts around that as well.
Thank you. And again, really aligned with Jonathan. And we all see the future when we're building the cars, so to speak, as opposed to just driving the cars. And, we can see the alignment. And I think what we really need to get to is away from just the server side identification management system, because that is a big part of the bottleneck. And ultimately, having human beings as system administrators creates ultimate bottlenecks, because you have these sentinels or arbitrators that are us, right? We don't function at light speed. We don't make decisions at light speed. Maybe one day, but not right now. So, we need to basically have mathematical proof that's there. And so being able to have individuals self-credential and having their own private keys from an encryption standpoint, of course, there's always going to be different user levels and organizations and always going to have some sort of system side identification mechanism. But I think it's important that we really start driving, the metadata, people's personal data to the person, and that will really alleviate a lot of the attack vector threats that are burdening companies. Or, in a hospital wants to help, provide service to its patients. It's not wanting to be a cloud company, right? And that goes for any organization that's out there. But yet right now, they're having to spend exorbitant amounts of resources on being a cloud company. And it's really, I think we're demanding much better quality of service and quality of life. And so I think distributed networks, really disseminating the ID and any kind of rote information, any kind of sensitive, personalized information needs to be on the edge and needs to be on the intranet of the user ultimately, or else we're going to suffer more and more attacks.
I would only add that in addition to just from the security side of the house, if you don't have that level of seamless integration on the identity piece alone, then you don't get the predictive and proactive capabilities, right, of digital transformation. The whole promise of data-driven decision-making is to get to the point where you can predictively and proactively act and improve business cycles and operating cycles, right? More responsive applications and networks to yield those experiences. So you're right aligned with me. We're talking about removing friction by using security, which is, we've gone from doctor know, right, to doctor knowing. And how to enable things. That's a huge shift in our mindset in security.
Well, certainly we in security, it's about being proactive as well as reactive. And you're both certainly touting that. And that is a critical element when it comes to security. The points you both covered are critical for our audience to hear, and I'm sure we could all wrap our heads around it. But I'd love you both to leave our audience with maybe your top 2 points that you think that organizations should look at when they're dealing with digital transformation or specific areas around security. Jonathan, please take the road first.
I think from a security perspective and all the pain points I've had over 25 years, the conversation now is really moving towards an architectural and strategic decision set about how do we consolidate technologies to improve performance, reduce costs, but ultimately, how do we gain better control and visibility across these platforms, across networking, across security, and indeed cloud, the compute, right? Because networking and security always follows the compute. And I think we're moving towards that security fabric decision that Ken Z and Fortinet, were so prescient about 5 years ago, began working with this. And I think, opportunity and reality and preparation really came together in the last 15 months. So think about security from the strategic perspective, about how to enable the new business models in addition to your typical governance, risk, and compliance guidelines.
No, thank you, Jonathan. And Anthem?
And really, I would just strongly emphasize considering to add trusted layers to your solutions. Start thinking about how distributed networks and platforms can help provide you with that redundancy, that uptime, that protection from eliminating honeypot vaults of all of this mega stored information that's just sitting there waiting to get ransomed and held up and all tied in with the application. Think about how you can separate data and application, of course, and just to reinforce the last question, really how to separate the data from anything central, put it on the edge, and really how to integrate systems using public protocols. Because again, the only way you can have truly automated integrated systems is if you have really computers on computers, and the only way we can do that is if we can have trusted software. And without a trusted record keeping that really only public protocol ledgers so far have given us, then really all of our automated intelligence will continue to act in a corrupted way and will only very limitedly serve us. And we're still going to have all these human arbitrators and decision makers that totally slow our life when we're used to doing everything at light speed, right? Just like this conversation.
That's
so
right.
we need our decision making to be light speed as well.
Terrific. Well, thank you both very much for sharing your perspectives to our audience. And I look forward to talking to you both again soon. Thank you.
I'm really grateful. Yep. Likewise. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Shira.
Thank you.